This entrepreneur is turning over £50 million in ice cream, leisure attractions, day nurseries, pubs, hotels. There's a lot going on here and he wants to double it. Let's go and find out if that's possible. James, thank you very much for spending time of your busy schedule to come here to Baddow Park House in the salon of loveliness.
Thanks, mate.
You like it in here, don't you? This is nice.
Yeah, I did.
In here.
Well, we actually had our wedding here, didn't we?
Yes.
Our English wedding. And this was, Nats, my wife, was in here with all the girls.
Lovely, isn't it?
It's good.
What is an entrepreneur? That was a question I was going to just sort of go through for my audience. So we're going to grabbing you on here. What defines an entrepreneur? Because, you know, I meet hundreds of them, you meet thousands of them. There's hundreds of thousands of them listening to your stuff. What makes a real entrepreneur as opposed to just someone who's in business?
Well, the actual translation is seeker of opportunity.
Right.
That is what it translates
Because it's a French word, isn't it? Entrepreneur.
Yes. Oui. It is seeker of opportunity.
Very good.
And I think that is the clear difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. And there is definitely a difference. You know, you could get, and you want a businessman or a businesswoman running your business for you once you get it to a certain size. You know, you want a system, organised administrator, a good manager.
You definitely wouldn't want an entrepreneur running your business, would you?
Not when it gets to a certain level. I think an entrepreneur gets the rewards for rolling the dice and then has to manage whatever that outcome is. They are innovators, usually. This is top-level entrepreneurs. They are constantly innovating. They are good at leading people, in my experience, not very good at managing things, but very good at the high-level stuff. They understand that they need to put good people around them, better than them, and that they don't mind doing.
I think that's the bit that got me from just... I always talk about working hard and working smart, and I knew how to work hard, you know, just work hard. But the smart thing was when I started getting management. And management, James, changed my world. You know, real good people that really knew their stuff, and you had to pay them like, you know, 50, 60 grand to do the job. And you could step away. You still oversaw and checked things out and tweaked, but they ran it day to day without me having to fiddle around with it.
I think there's a big clear difference as well that very quickly sums up the difference between an entrepreneur and a business person, businessman, businesswoman, is, you know, a business person, businessman, let's use a man, businessman goes to sleep at night, kisses their wife goodnight, says goodnight, whereas an entrepreneur would lean over to their wife and say, we probably ain't going to eat this week because we've got to meet payroll, or I've got this disaster of my own making. I need to magic up some money, so we probably ain't going to go on holiday this year.
And I don't see you saying that to Nats.
Not now, but
No.
I do think that is the clear difference.
Yeah.
The absolute leaders eat last, delayed gratification. Probably, you know, a lot of people think about entrepreneurs and look at them in their final guise, their last act, their grand finale, and see this dressed for success type individual. Yeah. But they very rarely see the 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of real pain and suffering.
It is like an addiction drug, isn't it? Because you don't ever need to buy another business or do anything, and nor do I. So why are we doing it? We're doing it because I think I love the creativity. I love the hunting the deal down. I like to try and make things out of nothing sometimes. I like to prove myself right. I like to prove others that they were wrong about an idea, especially you. You criticise me heavily, repeatedly, in public and in private about owning a bloody wedding venue and how crap it is. And it makes me drive even harder to make it right.
No, I think that's unfair.
Well, no, it's the truth. But the model is
this is a fantastic looking business, and I know lots of fantastic looking businesses. When you go, oh, they must be making a fortune. You delve into the numbers. The look and feel is great, but actually the model is not built for profitability.
There's no retained customer. The money gets spent too early that's retained for the wedding, and all of those things. We've done all of that stuff, and by you repeatedly saying it really makes it a good thing for me. because it makes me work so much harder
But
to get it right.
I've come across lots of entrepreneurs and business owners that have built very successful business models. You being one of them, you built a tree business that was a very successful business model that made profits, and then you built a commercial property portfolio that was very successful that creates profits. And there's lots of entrepreneurs and business owners that have those successful models, and then they go for the trophy style business, a restaurant, a hotel, a wedding venue, a theme park, that's funded really by a millionaire that's got other stuff around it.
That's a very successful model behind it, yeah.
But also, you only live once, and if you choose to say, well, I'm not bothered about that, then that's okay.
But James, the truth is that wedding venue would never have ever been able to happen without our successes that were sitting in the background, bankrolling it to where it is today. No way.
I question myself as well. On lots of our businesses, like, why am I running hospitality and leisure businesses? I have the knowledge to do commercial property like you. Why do I not just sell everything up? Have 2 or 3, maintenance person, a PA.
Because we'd be bored.
Maybe an estate manager, and that really doesn't drive.
And there's not a lot of creativity to that. I mean, there's a lot of security in it, but no creativity in it.
And I think the other thing that you're talking about, what is an entrepreneur as well, and going through the guise of entrepreneurship. Once you've walked through the pain and survived, and have some scars. You go, well, actually, that wasn't that bad. Let's go bigger and bigger and bigger, and go to more pain, to more pain.
It's like running your first marathon. When you do it, you don't know what to expect. That pain and those jelly legs and the rest of it. And once you finish running, it wasn't that bad. And then you book yourself in the next year and the next year and the next year. I just thought I'd mention that I have done 4.
Have you actually run 4 marathons?
I've run 4 marathons, got all the medals. Yeah, did it for Parkinson's. Yeah, my nan had Parkinson. I did it for that, and it was great. Yeah.
That's amazing.
How many marathons have you run?
I haven't run a marathon.
And how many marathons are you going to run?
I've spoke about it.
I've heard you talk.
Yeah, I mean, other people want me to do it, but it doesn't bother me. I'd much rather have regular exercise 3 or 4 times a week, the PT, consistently. How often do you do that?
Every day now.
Do you?
Yeah, on my app.
I can smell...
No, I am every day now.
What's that smell?
I'm doing Tai Chi again. You know when we were in China?
Yeah, you.
And I saw him doing that. Yeah. Well, I've got an app and it shows me how to do it. All the muscle memory came back in. I'm doing that every day. You said a funny thing to me the other day. We were out. I had one of my famous caps on, right? This one here, right? And you said to me, what's that all about then? Who do you think you're? Bloody Nike? Because of just the emblem right there. So we went to a company. We got these ones made. Is that better? Is that better
right,
brand?
Yes,
brand
yeah, I do think
promotion.
That's one of the issues that small businesses have, or when you're starting out. I mean, if you've got Nike budget, Coca-Cola budget, you can do stuff like that, but it should be very obvious what you're doing in the early days, unless you've got a big brand marketing budget behind you. But if you're a bootstrapped entrepreneur, you ain't going to have that, and you're going to put your cash elsewhere. No. So, like if I was, the classic, it does what it says on the tin. I am a big fan of that for entrepreneurs and business owners that are starting out. Like if I was going to start a tree surgery business, I would call it the Tree Surgery Company, rather than...
I would call it, if I was starting a tree company, I'd call it Tree Man.
Yeah, or something like that.
Because every time you phoned up to speak to a customer, one of the kids might answer and they go, "Mum, it's the Tree Man on the phone." Yeah. And that's what you do. I was with this is 100 years ago, with a guy, and I had an old truck. And he said, "I noticed you've got no sign writing on your truck." I went, I'm trying to, we're really busy. He said, "You're not busy enough to sign write your truck. Get it sign writing. And it needs to say everything you do on the side of the truck." And it's little things like that I think are so important. There was another friend of mine, he had a big shutter company, and he had it all written on the side of his truck in old English writing. And I said, as a dyslexic, I can't see anything of that. Why would you do that? It needs to be crisp. It needs to say what you do on the tin. We are the tree company. We're the ice cream company, whatever it is, that make the barrier of resistance for the customer to get it straight away,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
What's the journey? You started out as a clown. Everybody's heard bits of this story, but we might as well go through it in detail. So you were doing entertainment.
I mean, technically I was never a clown. I was a magician, but I went with that from a marketing
Well, I've
point
stood
of view.
behind you when you're walking. You walk like a clown.
Yeah, I do.
With those outy feet going left and right, flip flop, flip flop.
I'm a guest on this show.
Yeah. We can edit out anything you feel vanity about. Don't worry about that.
I started out as a family entertainer, built a kids' entertainment company, and then turned that into an agency.
So swapping time for money, good money, loads of hours, bashing it out. Got your van.
I very much enjoyed it. That was the big problem. I really enjoyed doing it, which probably stopped me from doing bigger things. Because when you get good at something, you get recognition. Oh, I love you, I'll book you a year in advance. And I was earning quite good money from a young age, so that stopped me from doing bigger stuff.
So when was the moment from doing that you thought, how can I do something that when I'm not there, telling the jokes and doing the magic, that earns me money when I'm asleep in my bed? Team, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to take a moment to let you know about Park Mastermind. I have created a mastermind for high-level entrepreneurs. There's only 16 spaces and we've only got a few left. If you often find you're the biggest fish in the pond at other masterminds, click the link in the pod description because this might be just for you. Now, back to the pod.
I got into buy-to-let property from a very young age. I bought the first one the second I was 18. So that was the first, trickle of passive income, if you like.
So James, slow that down. So what, you bought a house, how old?
18.
18? That's funny because I bought my first house on my 18th birthday. And it was really difficult to do it. And a friendly solicitor, I asked him if you could do it. And he said, I don't know, but we'll give it a go. And he took it on as a mission to do all of the stuff pre the actual execution of the mortgage and the purchase, and it was all on it was actually the day after my fourth birthday on the 5th of December, and I actually bought a little property.
Yeah,
very, very hard to do that was then.
It was hard to do back then, but I wanted security around me, and then I set up an agency. So I was getting so booked up in advance, I then started training other entertainers up and then giving them all work and taking a small cut from filling their diaries.
And what would you take percentage of that job?
It was a £45 deposit or a £60 deposit, and then up to £100. So they might be earning 1,500 quid for a gig, and we would get 100, or 300, and we would get 60. And it was a really shoddy model, really. And I sort of copied someone else that was doing something similar. But what I should have done is created a brand and had the same name, and then. Well, I didn't do that because I suppose I had an ego that I didn't want anyone else to use my name and they wouldn't be as good or whatever. But that meant that I was building their brands, and then after a year and a half, they would just leave me and go off and
become their own thing.
So it was a very low barrier to entry, and that's why if anyone watches my content, I talk about making your business as high a barrier to entry as possible, because no one goes to work at McDonald's and thinks, I'm just going to set up my own version of this next door unless I pay them a huge franchise fee, because the brand is so powerful. The land that it sits on, the real estate is so powerful, whereas I didn't have any of that. And so I try now to, that's why I like regulated businesses.
But you were doing stuff that was all sort of amalgamating with sort of entertainment and all the stuff. I mean, at one stage you had the limousine company, and that looked hard work.
But I'd done loads of low barrier to entry stuff very quickly. By the time I was 22, 23. We did get into venues, and we started Party Man World, and that was bringing in lots of cash flow, and I was just investing, trying to work out ways of doing stuff. And then I hit on day nurseries when I was about 24, and that really changed the game.
But the interesting thing that I when we talked, when you did day nurseries, when you did indoor play, you ended up going into the whole world of their annual meeting or their association, and then you'd get involved with everybody, wouldn't you? And then you go and talk at those events and become part of the scene of day nurseries, or part of the scene of indoor play. Because when I've been out with you, people have met you, and you've been knowing these people for many years and swapping ideas and nicking ideas and doing all sorts.
I think it's very important, in any sector we're in, if in the farm attractions world, there's the National Farm Attractions Network. Everyone would know me in there, and I'll speak at their conferences. I think that does pay you dividends to do stuff like that. Not now, but in the future. And I'll talk about how my life has changed in sort of my philosophies. Maybe touch on that now. In the early days, I was hunting for cash flow. I was in a hunter's mentality, which is what most entrepreneurs or business owners are doing. They're hunting for cash. As you develop and you get better, I think you become more of a farmer, and you start doing work that constantly gives you more and more fruit and more rewards. But farming is delayed gratification. Hunting can be instant gratification. Yeah. You go out, you swap time for money, you get some money.
The farmer is cutting ditches and doing pipes and doing stuff that will pay off, in the next few years' time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I now look at, making content. You don't get instant gratification for making content, but in 10 years' time, that video could land you amazing things. In 3 years' time, 2 years' time, whereas lots of business owners go, I can't believe you make all these videos, do all these podcasts, write all these newsletters. Is it really a use of your time? Is it good?
But James, did you stumble on it? I mean, you and Michael Chudley that does all the editing and videography and stuff for you, and it has worked with you all those years. Was that just this is now the new thing, or did you just stumble into, we are now needing to be a content company?
Well, I have to admit, when I started the content thing, there was a hunter's mentality there. I wanted to speak on stages and get paid 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, £10,000 to go and do a 45 hours keynote. How do you get customers? Well, I thought I'll make content to get that work. That really was how it started.
So this is you being part of your, as an entertainer, that you've always been from grassroots entertainer, and you could do the same type of entertaining storytelling on that stage, but for business.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a lot of gigs as a family entertainer. I thought, well, as I get older, and also like you go and do a kid's party, you get anywhere between, I was charging 650 quid when I was doing it 8-10 years ago, which was top end for a family entertainer. I then heard people doing a keynote presentation, $5,000, 45 minutes. Thought, well, that's my way. Yeah. I love being on stage, so I love doing that stuff. And I thought, well, that's a much better return on my swapping time for money. I write a book, so I wrote a book called The Millionaire Clown. That was the first one. I wrote another book, and then I thought I can start making videos.
And what was the second book you wrote?
The Experience Business. It was all about margin-based businesses.
And the third book? We might as well do them all now.
Getting customers, which is about getting customers.
And the fourth book?
It's called The Dream Team, all about recruiting great people. So they're the 4 books. So I started initially on a hunter's mentality to get immediate returns from making content. But actually, the farming part of making content is when someone says, would you like to buy my business, or can I come and work for you, or you get that big lead for your business. And then now I'm not so bothered about speaking on, I like speaking on stages, but my life's much busier than when I started 10 years ago making content.
Because we've been out and about, and you tell me stories where people have just said, can you just come and take my business from me, please? Yeah. With no money down, no nothing. They just want a safe pair of hands, and that can only come from those years of content of seeing who is the person that I'm going to deal with, and they can deep dive you by looking at all of that content and seeing, look, this guy is consistent, he's truthful, he's honourable, he's successful. Actually, why don't I just do the deal with this person?
Absolutely, yeah.
And the same for people wanting to work for you as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. When you go from those two, you go from a hunter mentality to a farming mentality with a business. There's another little phrase that I use all the time, which is pull, not push. If you can pull opportunities towards you, that's because you farmed out stuff and you get rewards for that. Yeah. Most people are pushing for opportunities. Can I do a bit of work for you? Have you got this contract? Can I bid for that contract? And then that's what everyone else is doing. So if you can get into that good way of farm.
We talk to the team that do the weddings here, and when they're selling weddings and getting people to come in, and I always talk about leaning back with your arm over the sofa sale. You're there as a consultant.
Absolutely.
when you see some other wedding venues, they are leaning forward, shoving a contract underneath these people's noses, and it just doesn't work. I think people are so smart, they just don't lean into that at all. It's all about being a consultant for them, you know. What was next? It was soft play indoors you were doing then? How long ago was that?
2007, I opened Party Man World, and I don't know how I raised the money, but I did. I borrowed from everyone and I could have, 21 different lenders. Lloyd's Bank helped me out a bit, but only just enough. I started doing advanced pre-sales for birthday parties, and that went very well. You know, I just got through, but year one, done $1 million of revenue, made a couple of $100,000 profit, but that was just debt servicing. So I was going out gigging, and then that went well. It was 2008. NatWest lent me, I think, $300,000 to go and buy a play centre in Wembley. So I bought that. Then another one went into administration in Lakeside Shopping Centre, and I said to NatWest, can I have some more money? And it was 2008 financial crisis, and I said, you got to give me the money to do this. It's a great opportunity. I've got, you know, a year's rent free. I've got the rent down. It will guarantee to make money. They said no. I said, well, if you don't lend it to me, I'm just going to put it all on credit cards. I only needed like 70 grand. They went, all right, look, get 3 months profitable management accounts to show that it works, and we'll lend you the money. Did that. They wouldn't lend me the money. They said you need 6 months management accounts. This is where you're producing monthly accounts, which banks require for those uninitiated. And it was very tough.
And James, for people listening and watching, you know, and I've been in that same position as you, raising those small that feel like small amounts of money. That high street is hard work, isn't it? And you and I, for raising money on the high street with those national banks, is hard work. And both of us have been into other work with private equity, and we brought private money in, but at punitive rates, just to get it across the line, just to get the sort of 2 years accounts going. And then we end up back in the high street with this proven model.
That's right.
Or this property that's now worth sort of like 3 times the amount of what we paid for it.
I think that happens whether it's 100 million revenue business, or a man or a woman worth £1 billion. You know, even Elon Musk, you know, goes and gets conglomerates together to go and buy Twitter. He weren't using his own money or banks' money. Prove the point. And that is what, you know, that you need to bear a balls to be able to go and do that. It's not for everyone.
And don't you think in the last 4 years, your notoriety and sort of fame on the YouTube stuff has given you more opportunities in the last sort of 4 years after lockdown? Has that really given you a bit of a hockey stick lift to where you are at the moment with stuff, acquisitions and stuff?
Yeah, maybe YouTube. And YouTube's definitely helped, but you get better at doing things, don't you?
Yeah,
you know, like the 100th tree you built up and moved elsewhere is going to be better than your first, isn't it?
Because you get used to those deals, that vendor finance. I mean, I listen to what you say about vendor finance, and some of them deals that you do, they take some thinking about.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and I get better at understanding how to cash flow, because I know when I'm going to take them out with the bank. Because my aim is always to use vendor finance to get a deal over the line if I'm buying a company or a creative structure, not necessarily just vendor finance. Use a creative structure, prove the point, and then take them out with the bank. And that's what banks prefer you to do. They want to buy into proven models. You know, a bank are lending you at 2.5 over base, whatever it is, you know, and that their margin is low compared to the risk appetite that an entrepreneur has. And I think that's what we need to, you know, why don't you just lend me the money?
And do you think the last bit of borrowing and stuff that you've been doing, that you it's not 3 years for today, but they're still asking those delving questions and looking at everything individually, or are they looking at you as a roaring success, or are they just saying, well, is this particular thing that he wants to do going to be a success, or is there any merit in the James Sinclair brand when you're going in those banks?
Well, I think banks definitely lend on past, not potential. They may say they listen to potential, but they really are looking at a past set of numbers and very, very sort of taking a view on the upside potential that we will sing a song to. But I actually think, you know, we do need a bit of that. I think it's good for us because we are over optimists if you're a successful person, you know, and look, we all make mistakes and we have things that haven't gone as well as we planned. And I do like sometimes that there is a bit of a
checking.
And I do like that.
If it was that easy, everybody would just be pouring money out and doing it. And it isn't that easy, is it?
Well, and you see private equity muck up all the time because they have over access to funds, other people's money that have invested in some of their past glories, and they muck a lot up.
Your purchase of Beaumont is all about that, isn't it?
Absolutely. But what I was trying to say is I do try and get the model to a point that I know that banks will like it. So there's three things they're looking for: management, affordability and security. And most people think it's all about security. What I like to try and explain to people, when you look at private equity money, there ain't no security there. In a bank, and most of the big banks fund private equity and venture capital, which is very frustrating for entrepreneurs.
Yes, because it's going from there to there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Very, very frustrating. So really, you shouldn't really think about security. Yes, they want it, but what they're really looking at is the management and the affordability. If that stacks up, I've done deals where they will give you the money without security, just on a PG or an enterprise finance guarantee or some government loan backed thing in Majiggy. But really, if the Wally walks in asking for a load of money and that Wally's got no experience, they're not going to have faith in the affordability of paying back that loan. And then security is a great thing.
Because I prattle on about getting fit for finance, and there used to be those days I admit myself, I was walking around with 2 big pockets full of cash. Absolute waste of time. You look like Billy Big Bananas, but you're getting absolutely nowhere. You're actually stifling yourself on ever getting any further than where you're at with 2 big pockets full of cash. And those days where we just made a decision, everything had to be into the bank, everything had to be growth, everything had to be tax paid, and eventually we're now borrowing millions and millions of pounds, where before we'd struggle to borrow a couple of £100,000. And that has changed. But it probably took us, 4 or 5, 6 years to get fit for real proper grown-up finance.
Well, there's a difference between a hunting mentality and a farming mentality.
Yeah, back to that again, because you're investing your time and effort into getting that ready to grow. Yeah.
But lots of people want all the fast money. That's why I talk about fast pounds and slow pounds. Like you want your cash flow coming in. You want to have all of that income, but you do want to take some of your profits and put it in stuff that won't give you immediate returns, whether that be super safe stocks and shares. For us, that's commercial property. But you do want a bit around you that's slowly growing over time, that's strong and stable.
You've, just pivoting slightly, you've made this very loud statement to the media that you're going to have this £100 million revenue company. When is that going to happen, please?
I think definitely inside 36 months, because I'll make it happen.
Yeah, so 36 months. So you've got some acquisitions to do in that time, haven't you?
Yeah, and
because it's not going to happen
growth
with the existing junk that you own now, is it?
Well, I think a couple of our companies have very exciting opportunities. Yeah, there will definitely be some acquisitions.
Yeah.
We want to expand into the UAE with Camp Beaumont. That I see as very exciting. Teddy Tastic is growing which is our arts and crafts and children's activity base. We supply lots of holiday parks and attractions with activities that they can sell at their attractions, and that's very fast growing. I mean, that is growing unbelievably, and I've had to learn a lot about that type of model of business, that needs heavy funding because you've got to hold stock and do all of that stuff. So that's very exciting. I think we can build that into a £15 million business in 3 years in its own right.
They make you do a lot of work, don't they, those companies? Because they make this acquisition of, say, 2 years stock that they want from you, but you've got to go and get it all made, get it all tested, get it all delivered, pay for it, and then store it over those period of time to dish out as they call it off. That's right, and then they're going to be, I don't know how fast they pay you for it, but it's a lot out to get that.
It's a good farming mentality. Yeah. The old me would never do that.
Right.
They'd be like, let's buy a load of stock, sell it at a market, or sell it, get rid of it in a weekend. Whereas these are good, high barrier to entry, sticky customers that you build relationships with.
And this £100 million turnover, are you going to do that solo? Will you get some partners involved to get you going?
No, I don't like partnerships.
Never ever, James.
It is not. I see. I've done lots of consultancy in the past. I don't do it now, but lots of business owners would come to me with nothing to do with the business, just about the discrepancies they had in their partnership.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I see that a lot as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And why are you getting a partnership?
Yeah.
And I think it does make sense if you need money and you're bringing in a partner that's got loads of money and there's no other way of doing it because that's the sector you want to be in. I don't know if you're 24 and you know how to build and you want to build loads of warehouses and you've got no collateral behind you and you meet a 60-year-old that's got 100 million in the bank, that partnership therefore might make sense. Yeah. But usually they don't last forever, right. And it might be a means to an end, and sometimes you have to do that. If you have opposing sets of skill sets, you're a builder and you partner with an architect, I think that could be a good partnership because it's very opposing. You need each other.
And then just for our audience, how would they be structured on shares? Because we hear terrible stories when it's a 50-50 deal. I mean, it's just the worst deal ever, isn't it?
Yeah, but then sometimes the minority might hate the majority. Either way, I think it doesn't work well. Someone that's got 25% shareholding and then there's other partners with 75%, the 25% guy is doing all the work and he's angry with the other 70%.
But that's where, and they're probably never educated enough or haven't got a good enough accountant to help them do it. That's where the memorandum of articles should really be written carefully when you've got that. But they're never grown up enough to write them in the early stages.
But if people have got the they got the It doesn't matter how many pieces of paper and contracts are there. If people are not getting on, they're not getting on, and it will be at detriment to the business. Now, there are some unicorns out there that have got symbiotical, brilliant relationships, but I think that's more
rare.
An exception than the rule.
I mean, I'm doing some consultancy with some people who've set up this company, and there's the brothers involved, and the sister lent them some money, and they're giving the shares away. Well, you can have 15%, you can have 30%, I'll keep this percent. And it's got no rhyme or reason, and now quite a successful business, now causing a real big problem because the sister's now married and now the brother-in-law is now putting his chip in and it's just breaking down.
And what if the other thing, if the two partners get on very well and then there's a divorce in the mix or one of them dies or, and then, I'm just not a fan of it. No. I'd much rather borrow money to get to where I want to get to.
So 100 million, what are you going to expand into to get that revenue in? What other sectors? Because you're all over the place with different things that are joining up to with your existing businesses. There's marriages going on there.
Yeah, the marriages are really important. We want to do more stuff that's high revenue per employee.
Right.
Other than our day nursery and childcare business, we will continue to expand that and are doing. We're opening a new day nursery this September in Peterborough. I went and looked at another day nursery the other day. But because we understand that sector, although 55% of the revenue goes on labour, so you've got £100 million childcare business, you'd probably spend 60 million of it on labour to run it with head office costs. Yeah. So that's very, very staff intensive. Or I go over to Teletastic, I could build a 15 or £100 million importing business, manufacturing business of children's arts and crafts and toys, and might only spend 2-3 million on labour, but I would end up owning loads of stock and warehousing, whereas childcare doesn't have any of that. So heads you win, down, there's horses for courses, I think is the better phrase. So I do want to, when I'm making decisions, high revenue per employee, predictable cash flow, which is why I'll allow the childcare thing, because there is lots of staff, but the cash flow is very predictable in terms of it's very, the customers are very repetitive. I love leisure and hospitality because that's the sector I'm in, because it allows you to be creative, and I will put accommodation on our holiday, our farm attractions, so they become more like holiday parks over time.
That is going to be a great model, isn't it? But you and I have discussed this, and that's going to be really good for spend.
Predictable cash flow, people paying for their holidays in January and February, coming in June, so you can really see what the business is, because at the moment it's quite affected by weather. But if people have booked in January, they're not worried about what's going to happen on a June weekend.
And it becomes a destination because you're overnight as well, aren't you? So they're going to do that bit of travelling from further afield.
Absolutely,
What do you do with... See, the thing I'd like to get across in this pod is the real James Sinclair, because I spend a lot of time with you, too much time with you, and the one thing I do see is you are very competitive. And I'm not too sure that comes across on your media, but you are super, super competitive.
Really?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Do you think it comes across? It doesn't come across. He's super competitive.
Really? That's interesting.
Because you see something, you go like a rat up a drain pipe for it. I mean, you just go for it. And if it's something that you really want, you absolutely spend time to make sure you get to know the people, you get to know the numbers, you get to know the subject of what it is, and you just absolutely deep dive.
Is that competitive or is that obsessive?
Yeah, I think they live in the same street. Yeah.
I mean, if there was someone in a race, like a cross-country race, I wouldn't care about winning that. Absolutely
well, you would if
not.
there was a big commercial building sat at the end of the...
Oh, yeah, I might win it then. Oh dear. But I mean, I don't think I am that competitive. I'm obsessive over things like hyper-focused.
Yeah, you're hyper-focused because we'll talk, and you'll tell me something. You are deep diving something that you don't really know that much about at the moment. But give yourself, 2 or 3 days, and you will have done the proper research, gone on every YouTube video, spoke to people, ring people up that are doing similar things to what you are, and you get in there and in amongst it to understand the intimacies and the little details. Yeah,
something. I mean, if I'm not into something, I will just buy in someone else's hours. And I do believe in that who, not how philosophy of being successful, because you can only do so much on your own.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, I love a third eye consultant.
So then I can obsess on the things. I'm quite interested, obviously, being friends with you about trees now. I really, I do like that. And that's that sort of...
The thing I like about trees is that you can't, they're there and they outlive us.
Yeah.
So they see us right up.
Yeah.
Get it all wrong. I do like it. And back in the day when I started, I genuinely was really obsessed by it. And as we got the commercial part of it going and earning money out of it, we ended up being quite picky with customers. When customers would come in and say, we just want to cut all these down, and we'd say, well, why do you want to do that? So because we need more light. And then we'd start saying things, well, we can crown lift the bottoms and open up the canopy, you'll get like a dappled light and still keeps the privacy from your neighbours. Oh, that's a good idea. And then 4 years later, you'll be doing all the job again, so you're retaining the customer. Yeah. You started seeing that they have a big sort of... trees have a good vibration for all of us, really, and it's something, without getting too woo-woo about it, it's good. I mean, we're doing a little bit of work with you with Marsh Farm, getting some new planting going on there.
Yeah.
Can you tell us everybody about your famous maize? Because it's quite amazing.
Yeah, we planted a maize 4 years ago. Again, farming rather than hunting. I mean, the easy thing is to just put a new attraction in that, anyone can buy. And we planted a lot of... Is it hornbeam?
Hornbeam, yeah.
Yeah, we planted a lot of hornbeam. Before I really knew you, 4 years ago at the beginning of lockdown. And eventually this would turn into a very large living maize.
Yeah.
And I do love the fact that in 50 years' time, I probably won't be here.
Yeah, it will still be there doing its thing. Yeah.
And it'll even be better, won't it?
Yeah, because you'll get a denser wall to it. And while it's hornbeam is in the winter, the leaf doesn't fall off. It's the new leaf that pushes the old leaf off. Yeah. So you're still getting cover and still getting sort of the density of the wall of the hedge. But I've been over there with you and had a look at it. It has really come on. This is the year that it's really gone mad.
There's a lot of... Because you don't get instant gratification from that. We've given a quarter of an acre over to this thing, and you see it, the little twin. He goes, it's very similar to like making content. Yeah. You put your first video out, nothing really happens, but 4 years of making videos, if you can be bothered to carry on doing that stuff, it's good things. I'm writing my newsletters now, and that's making me better because I'm regularly writing and. My books, they still work for you, but never instantly, and that's what I like.
And big news at Marsh Farm. You are now the owners nearly, yes?
Very well, we've exchanged. We complete. By the time this comes out, we would have completed. It's a big, I took that on a long lease. you know, and I put into the contract that we would want to buy the freehold of our attraction that we own there. And, you know, they kept saying no.
Yeah.
But the persistence, you know, this
Yeah.
is entrepreneurs. You
Yeah.
persist.
Yeah.
You don't give up, which can be quite exhausting for people around you. You know, why do you know, it doesn't like actually.
But you had a vision for that. You were going to own it regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, you just were in your head, weren't
That's
you?
right, yeah.
Absolutely. And now, the difference of your mentality on what you will spend on it, where you wouldn't before you actually owned the bricks and mortar of it and the land,
Yeah.
you're now got a bit more reason to say, no, this is going to be fit for the future because we are now the freeholders.
Good enough.
Very good, yeah, very exciting. And I've walked around there with you a couple of times, and it looks like that is going to be something else, because if you can get that to being more of a destination, that is going to be a real big winner.
I had a big marketing meeting today about that. We're going to probably spend 160 grand on marketing just for the summer holidays, the most we've ever spent. I said, look, we want to get 2,000 people a day over 40 days. So that's and we're £2 a head on marketing to try and get them in. And I've been on all the headlines and all that. I want 10 of us in the team to make sure that happens. That'd be good.
Because we're at poles apart, you and I, because if you just look at those two venues, if you look at Baddow Park here, stripy lawns, all beautiful, a ton of gardeners working for us, estate manager, staff everywhere, it's lovely. Probably overdone. Probably overspent.
Well, I would like it to be like that, but I would have to fund it personally rather than the business would never make enough. With leisure and hospitality, that, you know, not that if anyone's in this watching this, you know, there's two rules: you mustn't underinvest and you mustn't overinvest.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
To get that
balance.
Goldilocks approach to it is, and what we do now as international travellers, we can go to Disney World. But that is a unicorn of unicorns.
Yeah.
You know, it's $270 or whatever it costs to get in there, you know, for the day. And, you know, they're turning, I think, $15 million a day when we went there, you know, on average each day.
But you saw the breakdown of that Disney own their parks and they own all the IP and everything else, and it all is their stuff. And then I was at Windsor at Legoland. Well, Merlin owned that then. This was probably 2 years ago. Very, very poor. Needed a coat of paint. Needed the tarmac doing. And you could see there wasn't the investment going in there because they were actually working on a model to get money out for investors.
Yeah, or the turnover taxes makes it hard for them to capex. You know, and this is what we will start seeing. Higher interest rates and increasing turnover taxes does starve businesses of spare capacity cash flow, because they're servicing rather than improving their business is not good for R&D.
Hasn't that, James, in the news, hasn't that changed now? Have I got this right? That then I think Lego, the family Lego, have come in and bought Merlin out? Or the biggest shareholder?
They're the biggest shareholders, and I think they are trying to divest their other assets so that they just left with the Lego assets. So I think, you know, certainly all their Sea Life centres are now for sale, and other parks around the estate are for sale. So I think they, you know, look, big organisations do this. You know, Sainsbury's used to own Homebase, didn't they?
Yeah.
And you know, they sold that off. And you know, these big organisations do go on these yo-yo approaches of we want to own everything, and then we go, oh, this is too much. Let's divest and focus again, and then they go back in again.
So go back to this £100 million turnover in this short period of time. What other types of businesses are you going to try and snap up?
More food services business. Big part of our business is food service.
It's a great business, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's predictable. Love, want and need business. There's another little philosophy of mine. You should invest in love, want and need businesses where people love what you do, want what you do, and absolutely need what you do. They're the recession-proof ones. And food is that, and we're trying to get more contract catering businesses on. So schools is a contract catering business where they have the same amount of kids, and factories have the same amount of, and we want to supply those types of businesses, so that we have regularity, and we would fold in stuff into the ecosystem there. So we've got our ice cream company, Rossi Ice Cream. I've got the little badge on here, that we supply into our food services business, so there'll be more vertical integration as time
Rossi
goes
was
on.
a lot harder than you thought, wasn't it?
being a food entrepreneur, if anyone's watching this and they're a food entrepreneur, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah,
it's
hard,
very, very difficult unless you get to sort of 100 million plus, because you're into the game where you compete with people like Procter and Gamble, Heinz, Unilever, these massive companies with huge deep pockets. Like there's like 10 companies, like Mondelez is another one, 10 companies around the world that really own the food supply chain. And if you're a little upstart, people think about quality and they think about having the best product. Really, it all comes down to who's got the best distribution. Distribution is all about
it's distribution, shelf space and prominence.
But even if you've got the shelf space, because you can write a check to get the shelf space, you've got to be able to get the product into those shelves. So the wheels are what, and I quickly learned that from the first. So I was running it for year one. I was thinking, this is more difficult than I thought, because I thought I could just ring up a big food services company that we were spending £1.5 million a year with, and my biggest aim was get Rossi listed with them, and then that would give me nationwide distribution. They're a multi-billion-pound international company, and they can give two hoots about Rossi ice cream.
They'll choose what they want to put on
and
there.
They just didn't care. And I thought, but I'm spending £1.5 million a year with it. And this is a company that probably turns that every minute, so they're not caring about my £1.5 million quid. They didn't want to lose it, but you get what I'm saying. And so I thought, well, I'll just start my own food services business to distribute my ice cream nationally, and that's how.
And to your other venues as well.
Because I'd bring that £1.5 million of cash flow back in-house. And that really set me on that path to doing that. And that's how I ended up acquiring Cafe Deli Wholesale, which is our food services business, which gives us distribution in London and the Southeast. So I need to find 3 or 4 of those so that I've got national distribution.
And then, James, how busy you are?
Then the product really is important.
Then it is important. But how busy are you that if... And you used to do consultancy, and now you don't do that. What if people want a bit of James Sinclair? What do they now have to do that? How are you doing that?
Well, my podcasts, my YouTube videos, my newsletter that I write every week. I write books, and then I have my seminars that, I run 3 or 4 big seminars a year. One on buying companies. One's called Business Masterclass in London, and then I do another couple.
Buying companies this year was good, because I was at that, and that was a different group of people, weren't they?
I have a very serious audience.
They were like at school, weren't they? They turned up with food and satchels and stuff like that, and they were sitting at their desk and making sure they could see the stage, and they were scrawling the notes through, weren't they? I think September is a really good thing for, because what I like about the one in September in London is you get 2 days in there. The whole rubbing up against people like you that want to be doing things like you, that's so important for entrepreneurs, that they actually get a chance to find their sort of clan of people, their sort of little crowd. There's a lot of stuff goes on there apart from what you're doing on the stage. A lot of stuff goes on in the bar, doesn't it? And at breakout times.
Well, hundreds of, hungry, driven, determined people don't usually all come together, and we have put that little community together. Very serious people as well. When I started out making content, I had more solopreneurs and people in the very early stages, and now I've got a very established business owner audience.
I think that they
hungry and ambitious, and I've already had some level of success, but want to go again.
And I think that is where the tips and flicks for where you are at your space in your business, or where you are, and they're following your story, that it makes them see that, and they say, actually, I could do what James is doing, because you're showing them that this is possible. And it is achievable, and they can follow that model in. Because some of the, I was speaking to some people. The phone guy, who's the phone guy? David. I mean, crikey, what a great business that is.
That's a brilliant business.
A brilliant business, and he is growing that and scaling it.
Well, see, you look at that business. That's a love, want, and need business.
Big
people
time.
Love their phone, want their phone, need their phone. They will change their day to fix their phone if it breaks. It's very essential for most people. And you have this thing, which I call the rule of 4. These are great business models where people use it 4 times in quick succession. So Netflix is that, watch Stranger Things and you want to watch the next episode, you're in. And something drastically has to go wrong to lose the customer. A mobile phone contract is that.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like about wedding venues and indeed lots of my hospitality and leisure businesses. People might only come to us once a year or twice a year, and you have to have that in your mindset.
But that is when you're having to graft with tweaking the model and doing the funnel and making sure the funnel's robust and leaning into pay-per-click ads and making sure that the experience is fantastic.
The difference is you could do all that effort into a business that buys from you very quickly in succession. The returns are huge.
Yeah. So on a different model completely.
If you look at lifetime value, like a mobile phone contract, they could spend £100 to get a customer, knowing that they'll probably be there for 20 years.
So are we both then have got two businesses that are really vanity things?
Probably yes.
Probably, isn't it?
You're going to do is try and repair the model. So Marsh Farm, which is a visitor attraction of mine, we put a day nursery on there, which is a much better business model. And the farm part feeds the day nursery. Now, it's not to say that leisure and hospitality businesses can't make money, because, Marsh Farm does make money. I know other farm parts that do make money. I know wedding venues and hotels that do make money. That's not to say that, but I'm not just saying there's much better business models out there. Really, you should sell your wedding venue for £3.5 million and go and buy £3.5 million worth of warehouses. If you're really looking at it on the cold hard spreadsheet, that's what you should be doing. And I should be doing the same, but we won't.
No, because we find that non-creative and it's going to be boring. What stops you in your tracks? You're 100 mile an hour, but for listeners and viewers, what stops you in your tracks in a week? What just stops you just having to clear the diary, do something, and what happens that makes you stop?
In what would upset me, or what?
Yeah, what would you just have to stop everything and go and address it, where you just can't rely on the team to do it? What would actually put your all the brakes on, where you just have to stop and just go and do it yourself?
I still do the headline M&A stuff, the mergers and acquisitions, raising capital. I still do. Now my team are very working with me on it, but I enjoy doing that, but I just don't think people can come up with the structure on how I do things.
Right.
So if I've got out of one of our leases, and only I could do that, and that will save us many hundreds of thousands of pounds, and I had to have the awkward conversation with the landlord, say, look, what you said wasn't correct. It was in a shopping centre. And we can't afford to do that. So these are the options that I see that we have before us.
And that was a job that you had to do personally and do it.
But because I think if you're doing repeatable tasks, you're doing a disservice for your business. So if you're doing one-off tasks, I think that's still okay. So peak performance, what is a peak performing entrepreneur? What's an effective individual in terms of leadership of business or leadership in entrepreneurship? And that's doing leverage work, where you do the work once but benefit forever. So making this podcast, I always say making content is the absolute epitome of that, because you don't walk out of this room and someone say, well done, Mr. Martin, here's 10 grand for your work today. But you might get many more 10,000s from it over time.
Yeah.
And so I want to be doing that sort of work. Like writing a book, I don't get rewarded for that right now, but it does continually benefit me. So buying a business, doing an M&A, raising £1 million, buying a company, or solving a challenge like that lease thing that could save us hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing those jobs because they're one-offs. If I'm having repeatable work, I will get someone else to do it.
The future, what is the next big chapter? What are you going to do? Keep doing the content?
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep doing the content.
You're into it now. I mean, we in a couple of years' time, we'll be making videos for a decade.
And if that 100 million comes in on that timeline you said, more?
But I'm only doing that because I just think, well, why not?
Yeah.
That's why do I want to do it? Well, the better question is, well, why not do it? Why not see what? Because it's really what you become along the way. I know I mean, that's a little bit of an ego, a bit of competitiveness for me. I know most people won't have achieved that and won't have done that. And I absolutely now know that I can. I used to say, in the early days of making content, I'll build my business up to 15 million of revenue, then I'll get someone else to run it that's better than me, because I won't have the skill set to run a business of that size. We were doing like 2 or 3 million then. But, you know, you grow into it, don't you? You get better. And, you work on yourself. You get... Great thing about entrepreneurs and business owners is the successful ones are very good at moving tribes to better people, where most human beings will not do that. Oh. They grow up in a street, they grow up in a community of puller downers, and it's very hard to escape.
The environment is suppressive around them and controlling, and that's where they've got to move out of that environment sometimes. What is the thing, James, that you look for the most in an employee? Just do that question. When you've got someone there coming to you, a middle management type person, what is the one skill that you try and look at and find first?
Well, we want happy and hard-working people. We don't want mood hoovers and toxic people around us. We don't want people that love gossip. Most human beings love gossip, and I try and get rid of that around me. Well, I won't be around people like that. No. But we've got 2,000 staff, so I can absolutely guarantee that there will be elements of that, and we've got to work very hard to exterminate that and just have it not as acceptable.
Because your rule that you use, and this is in middle management as well, is this rule of 12, isn't it?
When you go over 12 people, human beings start becoming dickheads.
Because your analogy is about going out to dinner, isn't it?
Absolutely. You go out for dinner with 6 people, it's very enjoyable, and it's the perfect number. You start going out with 9 people, 10 people, 12 people.
Yeah, well, hang on, I never had a starter.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
And I'm not drunk any alcohol. So
can I pay part cash? All of that. Yeah. Someone leaves before they should have. No one does that with 6. No one just walks off, and not pays. Or but human beings become very difficult, and that's why you need to systemize the culture. And it needs to be organised. Yeah. And that's why when you're building a team, when there's like 6, 7, 8 of you, it's just a beautiful.
The most fun I've had is building that wedding business over the last, say, 6 years. Building that team up has just been so good fun. Finding the people, getting them to come across. We found someone and they wouldn't come across. And in the end, I did the whole thing. Richard Branson says it in his book. And I said, look, I'm going to give you unlimited paid holiday to come across. And they went, what, I can go on holiday whenever I like? Yep. As long as you don't turn your phone off and you don't drop the ball with what your responsibilities are. She came across. She very rarely goes on holiday. She runs the business. She owns the business and she loves it. She absolutely loves it. But it was that one thing that to get her to come across. And I'll say who it is. It's Kelly. Kelly is a superstar in my business. She runs all of the wedding stuff for me. And now makes up those big decisions and she runs it, and it's great. It's great to see.
That's good. I mean, see, that's the thing. When you go over, if you went to 100 people, you couldn't do stuff like that because the other, that's not right.
Yeah, because it would all drop down and they'd want to see.
That's the thing, people, you have to work very, very hard on that stuff.
Yeah, because the culture, I think, in businesses is so hard to keep it that it has that level where it just doesn't get all turned into this sort of mass company, sort of manufactured systems and stuff.
Yeah, well, what happens as you grow, people start putting in systems and protections to protect the business. Yeah. And you have to be very careful and say, do we need that many rules? Just, you have to go in like an exterminator. Well, why are we being so stupid? Do we really, just because everyone, big companies, there's so many things that I, think big, act small. Yeah. Is a big thing. Be frugal so we can be generous on investment. Do we really need a policies and procedure on blah 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 and blah 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 just because Amazon have got it?
And when you're small, it is easy to emulate, and to give the team. We have a meeting every Tuesday morning at 10:30 here with all departments and all businesses, and all businesses come into that meeting, and we talk about the numbers, and we tell them what the problems are and what's not working, and we tell them about staff training and what's going on, but we do it as a transparency to all of the sections of the business and everybody's sector. And I think that allows everybody to see, oh, we have got to pep our ideas up, or we have got to be more frugal in that area, or we've got to de-staff that down a bit, and I think that's really important.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's happening in France for you this year?
We're doing the retreat, which is in Provence, which is a big event for high-level entrepreneurs.
Because you've got quite a big case, haven't you, that you're taking? Because I said I'd carry that for you.
Oh, really? Yeah,
that's
right. No, big things. I told you about my Netflix contract, haven't I?
No, you really? Tell me all about that.
So I got a Netflix contract. I'll tell you about this.
Did you know, Chuds? Did you know about this? You must have known about it. Go on, tell everybody.
Well, we've been making content for a long time. And finally I signed up for a Netflix contract. It's $9.99 a month.
Such a twit. Is that the joke? It's such a twit.
See, Ollie likes it, don't you, mate? Wow.
Did you think you did little sparkles going in your eyes? Oh my God!
You got there. It's only I can do that, Chuds. I was talking to the Chuds about it because I've made so much content. It might just be believable. So that's not happening. But I don't have to share my niece's password anymore. It's all mine.
And is the Nappy brand sponsoring you now? Are you going to get that going? You've been sponsored by. Well, you've got all the day nurseries, and I thought a Nappy brand would be right up your street.
No. We did actually nearly buy a Nappy brand.
It's just banks that sponsor you, isn't it now?
Yeah, Revolut sponsors. I think we're going to work with another bank. Hopefully, we've worked with Capital on Tap and American Express.
And you know Revolut, because they're quite a big organisation. Do you get any feedback, Chuds? Are they pleased with what's going on? Do they tell you anything?
I think so. Yeah, we like working with a great brand like that. We get offered to do sponsorships all the time.
But do they feed you back and say, "Oh, very good. Yeah, we like the way you delivered that and you presented that"?
Chuds, who is our head of content, has all the relationships with them. But I mean, they renewed. They've done more stuff for us. I think so. Yeah. We like them. We want to work with. We want to be working with American Express. You've been quite or Revolut.
Coy about it, haven't you? You've only gone for those. It was with American Express. You did quite a bit of work with them. Where I watched some content and they're selling me a shake halfway through, and then a little bit further down the line they're selling me some pills that are going to make me run forever, and it seems a bit ticky-tacky.
Yeah, we say no to most people. We would want to work with QuickBooks as well, which is a big accountancy software platform.
Well, just to get it out there while we're talking about this, Oliver and I don't really care if you just like to throw something our way. It'd be lovely. Just some crumbs would be nice.
Listen, nothing happened for 5-6 years, and
we got away that long.
It didn't. Chances there, it really didn't, did it? Yes, rubbish people wanted to sponsor us. They just wanted, but we only want to work with AAA rated brands, and usually people that I use Revolut in my business. I use American Express. I've used Capital on Tap and still use Capital on Tap, which is a credit card for businesses.
So there's credibility to you telling the story and stuff like that.
Because we're not doing it to monetize our content.
And if they. What happens now? Are you just what are your numbers, James? That's what I wanted to ask you. What are your numbers on your main channel now? Because I was in America with you, and we had a wee day because it hit the 100,000 viewers.
Was that when I was in America?
Yeah, when we were at that show. What was that big show? What was that called?
IAPA.
And you come running down the corridor, way like a little schoolgirl running.
That was a big achievement, really, because YouTube's hard, and you want it to be hard. You've got some shortcuts because you know me, and I can consult for you for nothing.
Cheers,
and tell you
that we really do appreciate.
But it's very hard, and we spent, and that's something that I've definitely put 10,000 hours into. So I feel like I now can talk with some understanding of the platform. You really are not going to be putting up YouTube videos and expecting immediate results. You've got to get good at it.
Yeah.
You've got to get good
No,
at it.
it's definitely a craft, isn't it? And then what are those numbers now? Because that was way back in, I don't know, December.
I think the main channel's on 130-ish thousand, or just approaching that. We get good views. We've got a great audience. We're not bothered about having 10 million subscribers. We don't want to be, bloody Taylor Swift of YouTube, because that's just it. You end up with a broad audience. We're not for startups. I don't make content for startups.
No.
We are for established business owners, ambitious, hungry people that are already doing some stuff, that are frustrated with where they're at but want to get to here. Yeah. And we understand that. Most of our watchers or viewers employ people, or definitely want to employ people.
I see it.
They want to borrow money.
James, I see them as they are the entrepreneurs that came up with the big thing. They've got it all going, and now they're operators. A lot of those people have become operators, and they're struggling to become the entrepreneur again.
And that's very true.
Yeah, and they're trying to take that leap of actually putting someone in there to do their job better than them, and them to come out and start doing entrepreneur dust in another area or a similar area or something to grow the business or get more customers.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of people as well with us that want just justification that they're doing the right stuff, like seeing it from, because it's a lonely game. Yeah. This is a lonely gig, what we're doing. You'll go round to a family barbecue and you will be the only one that is having your sorts of problems and challenges. They're all excited about their holiday that they're going to,
or football.
And you're dreading going on holiday.
I hate holidays.
I find holidays for me can be quite painful. I'm not looking forward to going. I'm looking forward to getting back. Yeah. Which is, I don't mind a 2 or 3 day thing away. This is, she won't watch it, but, I probably more enjoy the thought of going to a conference in another country, because that's going to stimulate my brain. It's just who you are, and
I struggle with the weekends as well, because Sunday is just like a nose for me, because I've got all the ideas and all the lists of everything that's going to happen, but I can't really execute it until I get into Monday with everyone's back in the team, because it's still Sunday. So Sunday afternoons are a weird time. Sunday afternoons must be taken up with you finishing the blooming letter.
I do write that on Sundays, and I try and get round our businesses at weekends. The right thing to do is make content at weekends and run the business at Monday to Friday. But I used to do entertaining at weekends. I used to literally have a full-on 7-day-a-week life. It's mad. I think about it. Like, I was doing proper work at weekends, Monday to Friday running. But that's why you get the trophies in life.
But that balance of home life and work life is I've really proper struggled with it over my career, and I've got some some bad stories about that, because it hasn't worked out with certain partners and stuff, and that is just a part of it, and I can't change that. I can't change who I am, because I actually prefer doing the stuff, and I'm being poor at doing the home stuff. Yeah,
being a good dad is important to me as well. I like being around my children. Could I be better? Yeah, absolutely. I do try and force myself to remember that they're only little for so long.
Yeah, and then moments go. They talk about putting your kids on your shoulder, and the days will come where you won't be able to do that. Well, Edward, my lump, he's like 13. Well, I can't put him on my shoulders anymore. He's a great big monster he's turning into. Same with your son. These children are growing too big, aren't they? They're huge.
Well, I've seen your other son, Roy, now. He's doing some work for me at Marsh Farm. He's also... Yeah. All right, Roy, how's the weather up there?
6'4", isn't he? Huge.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Listen, we could go on and on. Thank you for spending some time here, because your time's very busy, and I know you've got schedules and stuff, and it's all go, baby.
Thanks for having me.
All right, mate. I wish you all the best, roaring success going into the future.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you hit those buttons and bells, and make sure you do the subscribe, and give us a comment. Let us know what you think of the pods and how we're getting on, and how we're delivering the message of entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs conversation. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you on the next one.